Hi, my name's Ryan Caston. I'm 24. I'm a fishmonger from Rainham in Kent at Howes Moor. Sorry, I'm just realising this is sounding a bit like a dating video. I've been a fishmonger now for 5 years. Beforehand, I was working in restaurants, so I've managed to bring a lot of my fish filleting skills over from that job into the new one, which has helped cut down my training time quite significantly. The only thing I've had to learn now is how to interact with the public without sort of effing and jeffing all the time, which has proven a lot more difficult than I thought it was going to. Knowing my audiences now, you can kind of judge who you can get away with certain stuff with. So some of the older ladies you can have a bit more of a cheeky joke with. Other people, not so much. A lot of people are a bit more serious. But I think as long as you've got good products you're selling and you're good at filleting it and you're good at selling it, then most people don't really mind what kind of jokes you come out with. A lot of people nowadays want to know where things have been caught, are they sustainably caught, where everything's come from. So it's something we've had to make sure that we know an in-depth detail on. Can't sort of leave people hanging and say, oh, sorry, I'll have to go and check that out. To know everything as soon as people ask. Which has led us on to working quite closely with Keith Cub, which is the Kent and Essex Inshore Fisheries Conservation Agency. And we've set up a bass conservation zone in the River Medway. And that's actually been interlinked with Rochester Oyster Fishery that we're all freemen of, which is it's an institution basically that dates back pre-Magna Carta. So we have sole right to fish the river with nets. And since we've made the Bass Conservation Zone and the no-take zone, that the fish stocks have actually grown in number quite substantially. And it's something people are always interested in when they come into the shop to know about how well it's doing. You know, if they are anglers, what they can catch this year, if they can catch anything. And being a fishmonger is also just being a friend to a lot of customers. A lot of people don't have many people to talk to. You've got a lot of older generation that don't have many people to talk to. So when they come out to do their shopping, they really like to have a good chat and want to know where you're going on a holiday. And so it's not always just about small talk and about the weather. And people my age really struggle with work, I think, that they hate going to work. They hate sitting in an office all day. You know, it's boring. A day here is never the same as the day after or the day before. There's always something different to do. There's always something different to talk about. There's always someone different to meet. And I think that saying is so true, that if you find a job that you love, that you'll never have to work a day in your life. Because I honestly feel sometimes like I'm retired, because it's just such a breeze to come to work and it's such an enjoyment. And I've gone for this award not for my own self-esteem, but just as an encouragement that we can try and get more and more people, younger people, through to actually get involved in fishmongery and just in fishing and stuff in general, with the possibility of maybe coming out of the EU or whatever, and our fishing rights maybe changing. It's a great time now to start pushing the fishing industry again and making it a much more appealing subject to the younger generation.
Okay, take 495 on this intro. We're going to fill it up for you now, a lovely Cornish brill. One of my favourites. It's got really good thickness to the fillet. And you've also got a nice portion size for 2 people on a meal. After this, we're going to do a Maldon oyster. We're going to shuck that. But first of all, we're going to fillet the brill. And hopefully I don't whack off one of my fingers. We're just going to make an incision as close to the head and onto the body as possible, and then keep it as tight as we can round the neck bone. So just make an incision there and through that main bone on the head, and then as tight round underneath the neck as possible. So next off, we're going to just take a nice sharp pair of scissors and we're going to trim off the tail and the skirt as well on the brill. Just going to again keep as tight to the tailbone as possible without breaking too much into the flesh, and then running those scissors along each side of the skirt again, watching not to cut your fingers off, but if you do quite a few you get to know where your hands are. We're just turning it round and doing the other side, and then tight to the bone through. And then we're just going to run that like a needle, tight to the bone again, all the way along, and then straight through to the tail and go along, and then just lifting up that skirt again. I'm just going to run the knife back along, tight to the flesh. Keep running our knife, making sure we're getting all of that flesh away from the bone, not leaving any behind. The only thing we leave behind is obviously what customers are paying for that they aren't eating. They don't want to be chucking too much money into their stocks. Changing angles over again. It's all about footwork. As long as you keep your feet moving and your arms moving as well, you can keep pretty tight on that bone. And once we've got the fillet off nice and clean, we're just going to use the knife to click through that little rib bone, run it up along, flick it over, and just using the knife just pull away. As you can probably tell, when you can see your fingers through the bones, there's not much meat left on that at all. So next up, we're going to shuck an oyster for you. We use Maldon oysters in the shop as preference to any others that are local, mainly because we find these are really popular. We know they use them in good hotels like the Savoy as well, so if they're good enough for the Savoy, I mean they're good enough for us. But we find they've got a creamier taste. I find that they've got it's a slight sort of cucumbery taste to them, so a nice freshness. So first up, we're just going to make sure the oyster's nice and alive, tightly shut. And then we're just going to use we've got an old boning knife that's nice and blunt now, but it's got a thinner point on the end that we can make sure we can get into the hinge with. So we're just going to, into that hinge at the back, just apply pressure and twist, and then lift the shell, and that lifts right off. And then we're just going to work the knife around the top shell, and then just when we get to that, the muscle that's holding it onto the roof of the shell, just use that to just loosen it and lift it off of that, and that top shell comes off nice and cleanly. And then just going to use the clean the knife off and use the end of the knife to loosen it off that bottom shell again. Loosey goosey. And then I like to just, you can just eat it like that, but I like to just twist that oyster right over so it's nice and presentable for the customer. They're ready to chuck on a bit of lemon or Tabasco or whatever tickles their fancy.